If you want to learn how to become a professor in art history, stay with me. Hi, and welcome to howtobecomeaprofessor.com, the web show to learn from proven professors and experts. My name is Stefan, I'm the founder and chief interviewer here, and today you will learn how Stanford professor Alexander Nemerov would plan his career in the field of art history today. A scholar of American art, Professor Nemerov writes about the presence of art, the recollection of the past, and the importance of the humanities in our lives today. Committed to teaching the history of art more broadly, as well as topics in American visual culture, the history of American photography, for example, he's a noted writer and speaker on the arts. His most recent books are To Make a World, George Auld and 1940s America, published in 2011, and the catalog to the exhibition of the same title he curated at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and Acting in the Night, Macbeth and the Places of the Civil War, published in 2010. And his new book, Wartime Kiss, Visions of the Moment in 1940s, will be published by Princeton University Press this fall of 2013. Professor Alexander Nemerov, thank you so much for taking your time for this interview. It's a tremendous honor to have you on the show.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
All right. The very first question I'd like to ask you is, could you share with our ambitious audience how would you plan your academic career in the field of art history today? And if it's possible, please be as specific and actionable as you can.
Well, if I were to plan it today, that's a different thing from how I suppose, planned it back when I was a young man. So which would you like for me to speak to?
Well, I think both parts are quite interesting, and maybe you could start with your career, and then tell us what are the differences from the past career path, and how young scholars who are especially interested in art history should plan their career today.
Sure. Well, I think my plan was not really a plan. It was unconventional in that sense. I was an English and art history major as an undergraduate at the University of Vermont, and I had no special dream or desire to be a professor, though my father was a professor, and consequently I guess believed or understood something about that job. But I went to graduate school without any grand ambitions or thoughts, merely my own, I suppose, love of learning and automatic interest in the arts, and didn't really think twice about it. I was naive in that sense. Mm-hmm. And I was also, I wouldn't say I was a great student either. So when I say my plan was not a plan, I hope you will begin to see this as well. But I suppose the moral of the story is that there is some wisdom to not being overly career-centered, and that the irony is that you can do well by not fixating on a career.
Right.
As your be-all and end-all. Extrapolated to graduate school, something someone once said, I think is true. Do you want a good job? Do you want a good job? Well, write a great dissertation. In other words, don't assume that it is all about networking and making your CV look proper and attending all the right conferences, though I think it's practical wisdom to say that some of that is very important, for sure. But nonetheless, notice again the naive, simple statement, write a great dissertation, both an enormously difficult and, as it were, basic task, And so, again, I guess my feeling is that one errs in focusing too much on a career, on the milestones and yardsticks and all the different sort of pre-professional and professional achievements that one can imagine a career consists of. And that, the real way I feel I have done okay is to not think about a career, really, to just stay in touch with my love of learning
Mhm.
and indeed to kind of become ever more absorbed by that over the years.
Right. Okay, I understand. This was quite inspirational, actually. And so, what you're saying basically is that everything developed organically, isn't it? Without much planning in your case.
Yes, I think that's right. And I'm the first to feel that I have been fortunate in that way. I don't think you can just assume that if you love books or love paintings that it's all going to work out just fine.
Hmm.
Uh, there are many people who are far smarter than I am who love books and paintings, who, for one reason or another, have either chosen not to become academics or have chosen this path and it has not gone as well as it might. So there's good fortune involved for sure.
Right.
Um, but I still stand by my point that, and I'll now phrase this in terms of what it would mean to apply to graduate school now. And I think the only real reason to do it would be if you do have this sort of passionate commitment that I just spoke of. And anyone might say that they do, but it does really involve some pretty serious soul searching to determine if what one believes really is the case. And what I mean by that is it's not good enough to be, let's say, interested in art history or to even, I would say, to love learning or love the study of such and such a thing. Um, it may not even be enough to feel that you are very smart and learned when it comes to, say, critical theory. I feel that there has to be some other thing which makes it almost impossible for you not to pursue this line of work. That is finally the elemental stuff or the fuel that enables one to uh, succeed uh, in graduate school, to stay the course, to overcome the inevitable difficulties that await one, not only as a graduate student, but moving forward in a career. You know,
Hmm.
if at every point in your career, from the first day of graduate school to your time as a professor, you can still be in touch with what is most meaningful to you, what matters to you most, which in my case might be, I don't know, let's just say the capacity of certain works of art to move me or to cause me to feel changed or moved off of the common course of my everyday life.
Hmm.
Then it is possible to withstand a number of the regular shocks and humiliations and disappointments that inevitably await one in this line of work, as they do in any line of work.
Right.
If you don't have that passion, then it's very difficult to withstand those shocks and disappointments because you don't have like a central core or spine of resolve and not just resolve, but pleasure and kind of dignity and deep, reserved kind of intensity in your everyday life. And if you don't have that, then it's again very hard to justify it to others and to oneself as a line of work. So a word, that's my word. If you're going to apply to graduate school, and if you're going to go to graduate school, get a PhD in art history, I think you have to be you have to be temperamentally inclined to that rich interior life, because it is the thing that will not only enable you to withstand, but also to flourish.
All right. Professor Nemerov, could we talk a little bit more about, your mentioned shocks or the crisis you have gone through and maybe encountered during your career, and how you managed to overcome them?
Well, I think mine are no different from those of other people. I've had to get a job or not get jobs. I've had to be promoted. I've had to send my work out and to be reviewed, peer reviewed, manuscripts for books, for articles, and so to take that last category, you often the work I do is counterintuitive, a lot of it. So it involves saying, well, what you think is true, actually, I don't think it's true. I think it's actually there's another way to look at this. And inevitably, that involves some disagreement, and people can be very critical of the suppositions or frameworks that I put forth. And the thing that enables me, I think, to feel okay, though often hurt, because after all, I am a human being, but the thing that enables me to finally feel okay is that I actually believe in what I'm doing.
Mm.
So if I were doing it just to kind of get another article on my CV,
Right.
well, it would seem to me that would be insufficient reason that wouldn't give me enough strength, sense of purpose, passion, dignity, everything, to not feel, really thrown off course by rejections, criticisms of that kind, you see?
Right. Mm.
But if I happen to have the merit of believing in what I'm doing, then I can say, as I read a critical account of my work, okay, well, I disagree with some of the things that are said. I have to say, it kind of makes me wince, but I kind of agree with some of the criticisms. Those are fair. But overall, I'm not budging. I can smile sweetly, but not give an inch.
Okay. All right. I'm a little bit scared to ask next question, but I'm doing it anyway. And I'm trying to rephrase it a little bit, or phrase it a little bit differently. So I'd like to ask you, what are, in your opinion, the most essential milestones on the road to professorship, and which kind of journals do you think are the most relevant, and not necessarily career-wise, but which journals would you recommend for young scholars in the field of art history to submit their original work to, and really to start gaining experience in the process of peer reviews and so forth?
Well, again, my approach, you're maybe talking to the wrong guy, because in many ways, I'm not a typical academic. At least that's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not a player. I'm not a person who especially prizes networks and contacts and CV building. I don't think you should feel, as you said, afraid to ask me these questions. I just don't think I'm particularly good at answering them.
Okay.
However, let me try. based on what I have observed over the years. I think that a lot of times when people are starting out as young professors, they it can be hard to write a book. It's a little easier to maybe disperse one's energies across a great many projects, giving papers, etc. And I believe very much in the consolidation of energies and really um, focusing in intensively on producing a book. A book is still the coin of the realm as far as getting tenure at many American universities. Whether or not that continues to be the case is an open question.
Mm-hmm.
It may be that fewer and fewer people are reading books now, and including academics, and consequently the criterion of judgment needs to be changed. But I believe in a book still, I guess, because a book, when it really is a book that is more than just a physical item that is available for sale in bookstores and on websites, but when it is a book in the philosophical sense, that is, of being a rounded, encompassing argument of the kind that the length of a book allows one to pursue, then that's a very noble thing. And that hence it is fair for tenure committees, for example, to expect a book as at least one book, maybe a second book, as a basis for tenure. So that's one bit of advice. Consolidate energies.
Mm-hmm.
Commit to a book, not just as a matter of a humorless grind that is meant to meet your, uh, to answer to getting a promotion, but again, with a sense, I say, um, with pleasure. I think a lot of times people. I'm a big believer in acting while the iron is hot too. So I think that sometimes people can get into trouble with books when they there's a kind of rising level of momentum as they research and begin to write, and then I feel you have to act at that point. That is, act, finish the book, commit, complete it, get it out there while the energy is on the ascendant.
Right.
And that many people, for many reasons, because being a professor is an extremely hard job, it demands a lot of you, being a good teacher, being a good scholar, etc. Many people actually don't act on the ascendant, and then there's a point where the book and the feeling and the momentum and the energy behind it start to go downhill, and then it becomes harder to do, harder to write, and so I feel that at any stage in one's academic career, one needs to be animated by a sense of urgency. And in the writing of a book, I think that's one instance of that. It's one scenario of urgency. I think one of the mirages and confusions and actually dangers of academic life, I think, is how relatively unstructured it is.
Mm-hmm.
And consequently, me talking about a sense of urgency can seem a little bizarre. I mean, imagine if you're in your first day as an assistant professor at a place, you might not especially feel that there's a sense of urgency there. You might walk to the library and you might generally kind of enjoy the idea of beginning to take things in and become part of workshops and become part of reading groups and so on. But I feel very strongly that from the moment you set foot on campus, you should be there. Your projects, your ambitions, your dreams should press upon you, and they should always be exerting a kind of demand on you to be done, to be addressed. And lest that sound too humorless and too much of a matter of a grind. I guess the passion and the task, the thrill and the demand, the exhilaration and the discipline of academic life are all bound up together very tightly as to be almost one and the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that different from an artistic life, at least in my estimation,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense. In other words, an artist doesn't wake up thinking, I must make this. I don't want to do this, but I must make this. They wake up thinking, I must make this because there can be no other way. My material, my dreams, my project, my imagination, my fantasy demands that I bring these ideas, this way of thinking into light, and that's a good kind of urgency. But it's very much connected with discipline, discipline and demand, and a kind of set of very kind of strenuous and even harsh expectations that I would say one puts on oneself,
Right.
rather than accepts as always coming from outside parties, tenure committees and so on. I think that can be an issue if you in academic life you get into a sense of it's me, and then it's all these people who are making all these demands on me. Then it can become a very adversarial and even a kind of artificial situation where one sits down at one's computer every day, not in order to seek out the pleasures and fascinations and, let's say, even political commitments that animate one's own work, but one does it because one is trying to meet the expectations of parties and persons that one feels resentment towards, and that's just a bad road to get down. The primary demand, in other words, should be from within oneself.
Mm-hmm.
If the demand is not coming from within oneself, the statement basically, you must do this, if that's not coming from inside yourself, then it's going to be a lot harder and a lot less rewarding. That's what I would say.
Right.
Because then you're going to be doing things for other people and not for yourself. And, the doing for oneself is not, I need add, narcissistic. It has to do with actually a generosity,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of honoring one's ideas and commitments, honoring them by trying to give them fruition, give them form, is a way of giving to other people. So I believe.
Okay, wonderful. The very last question I'd like to ask you is about your routine. As you mentioned before, being a professor is an extremely hard job because there are so many different tasks and responsibilities to juggle simultaneously in most cases. And how do you prioritize the tasks, and how do you go from one task to the next in the course of one day?
I think I've learned over the years, obviously you have to have many things being balanced at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was younger and less busy, I had the luxury of not needing to do that. I could concentrate on one thing, then another, and so on. But now I'm comfortable with having many writing projects in play at the same time, though they're all short.
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't bother me. So that I guess that comes with experience. Um, I don't have my email on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't multitask. I try to be present for whatever event, situation I'm engaged in. I don't. If I'm writing an essay, I'm writing an essay.
Right.
I don't. I don't. I'm not checking my email. I don't even understand a lot of the various communications devices that enable one to be in constant contact with the world. I guess I believe in solitude and plain old-fashioned hermetic retreat from the world as a way to get things done. And then I will, of course, periodically emerge from that. By periodically, I mean pretty much every day for some time, and answer my email, participate to the best of my ability in whatever university requirement or expectation may have come my way, etc. So I think that's my answer is keeping a number of things in place simultaneously, but also partitioning them, one from the other, so that I can set my full mind to accomplishing one thing at a time.
Okay. Professor Nemerov, thank you so much for your thoughts, and it was a very inspirational talk that I just had with you. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and wisdom so generously with us. And I'm sure that many of our users, and especially those that are interested in the field of art history, will benefit tremendously from your advice. And as always, I'd like to end my interview with the following quote: "The best advice is worth nothing if it's not put into practice."